All right, Joe? Okay, the P200 has a fantastic Sony image module. It gives you 30 times zoom, great for any size room. It's great in low light and has awesome color rendition. On top of that, we have our BirdDog NDI processing engine, which gives you the highest quality pictures at the lowest latency. It's compatible with any NDI device on the planet and just gives you the best outputs. We have our brand new user interface with NDI version 5, which gives you waveforms and vector scopes to make sure you're properly exposed. It also gives you unlimited control as far as color control and using your camera. In addition to this, it sounds strange, but we can do pan, tilt and zoom at the same time. Try some other cameras, they can't all do it. The P200 is a fantastic camera that's got every type of connection you can want, from NDI with power over Ethernet, SDI, HDMI, any control interface. It's got a great big tally on the top. It's a really great camera. How to do with the time? And the cool thing is, for a limited time, if you buy 3 P200s, you get a free PTZ controller.
What's going on, everybody? I am BirdDog John. Thanks for joining us today, and we are going to kick things off here. It is 1 a.m. in Melbourne right now, and that is exactly where I am. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Robbie to the show. What's going on, man? All right, let's see. Hey, what's going on, Judson?
Hey, thanks for having me.
I do much more. We are joined with BirdDog Ian, who is at the Capture Summit over in Atlanta. So how's it going, man?
Hot and sweaty.
That's the most important question that our team can ask. Why are you needing this camera?
Now, I haven't tested this thing since it got here. This is something that I'm really excited that NDI did. That's cool. Obviously, there are lots of flavors here, but this is the 4250 line. And our little friend here. Say hello to my little friend. It's brewing in the back of my throat. Based on the recommendation of Senseless, we're going to give a Java Monster a try.
Oh, yeah, Pocky,
We
dude.
got a little Pocky, and
Yes.
I have been putting this off for an age.
Oh, I'm so excited for you.
There is a Snacks on Stream mystery box brought to you by my Snacks on Stream manager, Brayton. What's going on, Bugsy?
There you go. What's going on? Balu, good to see you, man.
What's going on, NetHab? Hey, what's going on, Judson? And hey, Kevin, good to see you, man. What's going on, Jeremy? How are you? Thanks for jumping on. Oh, it's all good. Yep, it is that time again. I've switched over to my giant headphones. I just realized I'm not wearing my earpiece, but anyways, I can put that on here in a minute, I guess. How's it going? I'm BirdDog John, and I am back again for another fun hour of NDI discussion, and we'll go down whatever sort of adventure paths you're interested in. I have added one more light to my scene. It probably won't stay, but I've added a little wall light on the back here that's purple. It's jacking up the colors and making things look strange in vMix. But hey, that's all good. No big deal. And so, yeah, that's there. And I think that's all the progress I have so far. I am going to double check the YouTube feed, make sure that things sound all right on your end. Yep. All right. So there it is on YouTube. So there is evidence that it is going out to the interwebs. Now, one thing you should know is not that it changes your life at all, but one thing you should know is I just got back from the dentist who gave me a root canal. So that's always fun. Let me fix my glasses here while I'm at it. Okay, so yeah, I had a root canal this morning. That was fun. And it was a tooth that I already had a bunch of work done on, and so they just like it was bugging me it's been bugging me for 2 weeks now. And so he just like sat down. He's like, "So, still giving you problems?" I was like, "Yeah, it's still really sore." And he was like, "Okay, root canal." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know I was having that done today." Okay, cool. So I'm a little numb. The numbing is wearing off, and so probably by the end of the hour, I haven't had any coffee yet. It's sitting here. This is my morning coffee, Okay, correction. I had a little coffee this morning, but I haven't had my full intake of coffee, and so this is partially caffeinated BirdDog John. Good times. Namaste from India. What is going on, Go Web? Good to see you. Hopefully you and your daughter are doing well. I know she's hanging around, so she's going to pop in here one of these days, and so might as well cut that off at the pass. Sanaya, how are you? Hopefully you're having a good day. What's going on, Hector? Hello. We have, oh, hey, we're already getting into the NDI stuff. Fantastic. Hey, we have 3 P200s on beta. Okay. And a keyboard. How can I clear all the presets on the keyboard and the cameras? Okay, so the presets are not stored on the keyboard. The presets are, you can set the function buttons first right off. You can set the function buttons on the keyboard to call presets per camera, but the keyboard stores no preset data. All the preset data is set on the camera itself, and there really isn't a dump all function for all presets. You just store presets over top of them. So if you really wanted to kind of like generic, you could store preset 1 and then just go through and store all the presets as the same. You can do that on the keyboard or in Studio Mod or something like that, but there isn't really a way to like wipe the memory of the camera with the preset information. You just write over it. And so the easiest way, honestly, the easiest way is open it in Studio Mod, get it to the position that you want. And if preset memory is set to on, then you also need to make sure the coloration is correct. And then hit store 1 or store 2 or whatever you want to store the preset for. And that will overwrite the old information and write a new preset on top. So that's how you set it up and use the preset functions. That's done with internal memory on the onboard the camera itself, with the exception of a program like vMix. If you save presets in vMix, those are actually coordinates saved inside vMix itself. And oh man, I'm having trouble with words. Those are stored in vMix themselves, and they and vMix recalls those out of vMix, not onboard the camera. So there you go. I just updated my P400 to the newest firmware, and now all of them aren't streaming. They're all stuck on changing video format. Okay, so this can occur one of 2 ways. The changing video format traditionally is that the baseboard did not update, especially if it's happening on more than one camera. Then you likely had an out-of-date baseboard. This is the hd20.bin file. If you updated them to NDI 5, then you needed to be on the latest LTS version before you move to that. That's in the manual. And so I would suggest doing the USB update with a different USB. And when you do the firmware update when you format that USB drive, unpartition everything so that it is unallocated, as the video demonstrates that I did a long time ago. But instead of setting it to like 8,000 or 4,000, set it to 256, which will change your USB drive to 256 megabytes. And if that doesn't work, change the format to FAT or FAT16, which is what it's formally called. But there's FAT32, which is in the manual. We've had some success with FAT16 or just straight up FAT formatting. Give that a go and try and format it that way. And then verify that the baseboard is up to date on the OSD. So turn on the OSD, go to the system menu, and look at the SV number and make sure that the OSD shows the correct baseboard number, the one that you need before updating to NDI 5. That's those are my recommendations to troubleshoot that, because the changing video format thing traditionally means that the baseboard and the firmware are mismatched, and so they need to be realigned in order for that to get fixed. Hector, you are very welcome. Sanaya has school exams going on right now, but yes, she told me to convey her regards to the BirdDog team. Awesome. I'm glad that we are a part of her Tuesday, Thursday routine. The OSD shows correct. Okay, so if the OSD is correct for the LTS, hey, what's going on, Zach? Good morning. For the P400, and it's giving you changing okay, then the next thing I would try is to what can we do? Okay, make sure that your dip switches and dial switches are all in default so that they're at the maximum. They're all set to the default settings. On a P400, that's going to be setting 4 on the dial. And the dip switches should be listed in the manuals as to which ones they should be. And then let it boot up. It's hard to say. Let it boot up. And you know what? Are you running the NDI 5 update? Because if you're running the NDI 5 update, check the web UI, the actual dashboard of the web UI will tell you what the MICU version is reporting back to the NIC card. And if it says MCU none, then you've got a problem with the baseboard, which can be resolved in redoing the baseboard update. Again, we might need to re-image that camera, but it's strange to me that it's doing it to all of the cameras, because that makes it sound like it's not the camera itself, but that, it's the wrong firmware file or something like that. So we'd have to investigate that a little bit more. Shoot an email to help@birddog.tv, and Clay might be able to give you some additional direction if he's seen anything else. But yeah, we'll have to hash through that probably through a ticket. Just offhand, I don't know of anything that specifically would throw that error if the OSD is correct and it's reporting it back to the NDI chip correctly. That would be odd to me that it would misbehave beyond that. So, all right, I'm going to get my IEM in here. Sorry for making this so personal here. There we go. Okay. She also wants you to subscribe to her channel, The Little Bunnies Workshop. So she hasn't uploaded any videos for a long time. Okay. Oh, the MICU says none. There we go. Okay. So that then means that the MICU is not reporting back to the NIC card. So 2 things here, either going, do the LTS, the full LTS update. So do the baseboard and then do the firmware and get it back to the LTS firmware, and open the web UI in incognito mode and see if that, if the P400 then functions correctly after that. Because if it does, then, we're in, the camera's functional, and we just got to figure out why it's not reporting the correct MCU back to the NIC card. So there's a little bit of troubleshooting here, but if you go back to LTS, see if that reinstates the usability of the camera, and if it does, then that's a good sign. First of all, there's nothing wrong with the camera, but we need to figure out why it's not reporting back. So so today on YouTube, instead of my normal Twitch, still haven't fully set up my phone with Twitch yet. No, I totally understand that. Well, I appreciate you jumping on here with YouTube. That's good stuff. And thanks for all of you who are liking the show over on Facebook. People are giving me some thumbs up over there, so that's pretty nice. But yeah, those actually show up here in StreamYard, and it actually gets reported. So all right, there we go. Fix my headset here. Now, just make sure that I have audio, which I do. So, as I reported late, what is this? What day is this? Tuesday. So as I reported last week, man, I get my days mixed up. I have continued to integrate with vMix, and everybody is making fun of me because, I was quite a non-vMix user. However, it has proven that it is indeed the Lego block set that Tom Sinclair suggested that it might be. And so kudos to Tom for convincing me to give it a try. And sure enough, I am using it for a lot of stuff. And so we are able to test vMix and check all that out and see how they go. Ooh, there's my nice, you can even see StreamYard running. So yeah, it's a good little gig. And vMix gives me the option to do a little sound mixing and whatever. And so even that has, I think, improved the quality of the sound of the videos that we're making and the live stream and all that sort of good stuff. So that would be fantastic. Will it be possible for a short demo of a PTZ controller? Yes. Let me see if I can get one of my guys to bring me one. And I need to make sure that I have Ethernet here at the table in order to pull that off. I guess I could use that one. Okay, so let me send an SOS out to my guys. Where do I want to do that? Over here, I guess. And just give me a second to coordinate that. We can definitely get now. This shot is interesting because it doesn't look purple on the walls. It is definitely purple on the walls, but it does not look purple in that shot. And I wonder why that is. Because the other shot, this one, for sure it looks purple. So, and that's more of the color that it is. Maybe it's a little too dark, but anyways. Yeah, good times. Okay, so a delivery is being made by thank you, by Mr. Frink. Appreciate it. And okay, so yeah, we can give a little demo of a keyboard. This has been delivered. I believe this is one of our demo units. And so let's have a quick little look and see how this goes. I will switch over. Oh, my P100 needs to be adjusted. Just give me one quick second here, folks, while I do that. And we can... Here we go. P100 in the studio. I'm not too sure why the home position is this. This camera needs a little TLC, I think. All right, here we go. I'm getting there. Slowly but surely, this camera is coming into view. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's kill the playlist here and let's switch over to my overhead. So, hey, folks, this is a P100 that you're looking at. And this keyboard, we're just take our Ethernet line and plug it into the NDI port, which is the second from the right. I'm sorry, from the right. So we're going to plug it in here and make sure that you get a good connection. Molded cables, please. And make that connection with our cable. And then there's a little silver button here on the top. And so we're going to turn it on. This is one of the only products that we have in our fleet that actually has a power button. So good stuff there. And while it boots up, we won't just stare at that screen, but we can make that. What's going on, Nick? Trying any spicy food today? Actually, we are going to try. Here, I'll switch back. We're going to try smog balls. I have never had these, but they are in line with, this camera's out of focus now. They're in line, apparently, with toxic waste, which is what we tried the other day on the show. And so we're going to have something sour. Now, I'm kind of waiting for my frozen face to calm down because I went to the dentist today and definitely they froze my face. So... and let's see if the 100 will. Okay, there we go. Good. So back to this overhead. So yeah, these sour smog balls. That's what we're gonna give a go today, and we'll see what happens with that. But first, we want to do a quick little demo of our keyboard. So let me just make sure. GoWeb, can you specify exactly what you want to cover with the keyboard, because I want to be sure to answer the things that you want covered. Okay, so the first thing we need to do with the latest keyboard firmware is on the screen it says uncalibrated, which means that you need to calibrate the joystick so that it knows the extremes for each of the coordinates. So we're going to go up, we're going to go up, we're going to go down, all the way down. We're going to go left and right. And once it says calibrated, then we are good to go. Now, first thing we do with our cameras is we are going to search for our system over NDI. Now, I need to customize this a little bit because I have a grouped. We're not going to be able to control these cameras because I have a grouped system here where these cameras are in specific groups, but we can certainly search and see. First of all, let's just see what comes back. So we're going to, whoops, I'm sorry, I blocked your view. So we're going to click the search button, go to NDI IP, and we're going to start our search. And it's going to read back, wow, almost immediately, which cameras we have. Now, you can go up here and cycle through the cameras that it found, and it's going to give you the IP addresses of each of those. And so it doesn't give you the short name, which would be nice, I guess. But in this instance, I can just look them up here, 192.168.1.171. And then what's the other ones we got here? Come on, 220, 192.168.1.220. Okay, that's a BirdDog Eyes, which is probably the one on Auburn Hills, on Auburn Road. 192.168.153. I'm sorry, 1.153. That one is, my PF120. That's the one that's looking over here at the blue, so I'll be able to use that one. So let's add that one for sure. And then what's the first one on here? 58. I think this is Brayton's 192.168.1.58. Yes, this looks like it is Brayton's office. So, all right. So the one I want to add is this one here. That is 153, and that is my PF120, which is this shot right here. So we're going to manipulate this camera, and it's just going to do our zoom in and out. So we're going to highlight it and make sure our arrow is there. And we're going to click down on the LR direction knob. Okay, this is also a button. So you can click on it and it will take you into this submenu. It's going to say, which camera ID do you want this camera to have? And you can add, I think it's 256, but let's stay it safe and just say over 100 cameras. But here I just want to add this. This is going to be camera number 1. And so I'm going to add that camera here and make sure that's the title is PF120. And then I'm going to go to exit. And then I'm going to exit all the way out of this. And I'm going to call one cam. And you can see now it says BirdDog PF120. It gives me the IP address and it lists it as okay. And so now if we are, let's see if we can manipulate this. So now I can drive this a little bit. It's just a PF120, so it's just a box camera. But we can certainly steer in and out if we dial back and forth. We can control the lens on there. We can also change the focus on this camera. So let's turn this over to manual and see if we can manipulate this at all. This is a test of there we go. So now I can manipulate the focus on this. You got to remember that this is IP based and it's not like an actuation motor where you're sending electronics to the motor. You're sending TCP commands, and so that's going to be different. But you can also then select auto on this camera and change the focus on the camera if you need to. See, the auto is now following me, so that's all good. So that is working. Now let's talk briefly about adding this keyboard over into the group to control these cameras inside my studio, right? So I'm going to switch back here and just kind of talk you through this while I do it. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to find out what the IP address is of my keyboard. And how do I do that? Well, there's multiple ways. But let's see if the keyboard is reporting back the IP first. So first thing we're going to go and we're going to click on the setup button. My super secret password, which is by default 4 zeros. Okay. And then we're going to go into keyboard settings. So the LR direction knob is going to drive that. Keyboard settings and IP configuration. Now, this information is actually also available under model info, which is right here. And so it tells us the IP address 192.168.1.134. So we're going to go over to my computer and I'm going to cut over to that screen and we're going to take Chrome and put that up here. So 192.168.1.134 is the IP address. That's not the right IP address. 134. Ah, man. Right, it's not a website. 192.168.1.134. Hey, there's the keyboard. And our super secret password. We're going to put that in here. It's going to take us into the web UI. So keyboard's running up to date. It's running LTS 214. That's great. And I'm going to head up here to system. Well, first of all, let's check the network stuff, make sure that's all coordinated. Oh, here's the short name, just in case we want to remember that and not have to remember the IP address ever again. So the short name is there. You can also alter that a little bit if you want, like BirdDog-keyboard. If you only have one, that would make sense. All right, and we're just going to go through our settings here and make sure that things look good. Now, I don't have a Discovery server running, so I don't need to worry about that. Function buttons, I'm not programming those. And so the configure file is the last thing that I need to do. And so here we're going to select a file. And my group file is right here. So we're going to add that and hit update. And let's see if that works. So NDI group list. We may need to actually make a file. Let's refresh the screen. It is a cache after all. And yoink. That's interesting. It doesn't actually tell you what the group list is. Choose file. Let's try this. Oh, wait. You know what? Let's just verify that this is correct. I'm going to open this with, yeah, Notepad's fine, I guess. So, no, that file is not the one that I want. What about this one? Open this with Notepad. Okay, here we go. So I have my group set. My groups are listed here. And if you want to see what that looks like, it looks like this. I prefer you do this in Notepad++ because that program actually saves it correctly. But my group is called Studio 2901 because that's our address. So I'm going to select that one and hit update. Okay. So does it show it? It doesn't show it on here. So hopefully that worked correctly. We're about to find out. So what I want to do next is I want to go ahead and restart my keyboard. And so I'm just going to exit out of this menu. Oh, look at that. It gives you the MAC address. That's so cool. Useful information brought to you by BirdDog. Okay, so let's exit out of here and let's go ahead now and actually physically restart this keyboard. So I just, nice little power button. I don't have to unplug the PoE or anything, but as you can see now, I'm sorry, you can't see that. As you can see now, the web UI is non-responsive. We get the little BirdDog circle thing going on up here. So she's initializing. Let's see if she joins the group and I'm able to search for the cameras here in the studio. Now, the P200 that's sitting in here goes by a specific name, BirdDog-Studio-P200.local. And this camera is 1.23 on my network. Okay, so, and the web UI has come back now. So let's go ahead and log into this one. Just make sure that it is working correctly. Still, group list isn't listed, which gives me a little bit of a concern that maybe the group list didn't join. Anyways, okay, so there. Let's go here and let's see what we can find. Okay, so we're uncalibrated because we rebooted the joystick. So we need to go all the way up, all the way down, all the way left, and all the way right. And now we are calibrated. Okay, so now that we're calibrated, let's go ahead and search NDI IP and start search. Now, 225 is, I believe, a different camera than the one that I had before. And I've got 8 cameras available here. So we've definitely found some additionals. And I'm looking for 1.23, which I have found. So we did join the group correctly. So we're going to click on that camera and change that ID to camera 2. And then we're going to go down to exit, exit, no, and exit, and exit. A lot of exits. And now we're going to say to cam. BirdDog Studio, the name's too long, but with any luck, we are going to be able to drive this camera that's in my studio. So I am able to drive it. And let's see here, lefty loosey, righty tighty. Yeah, so we are actually driving and manipulating that here. I should make this full screen because it's kind of weird to watch that teeny tiny. Okay, so here we go. So I am able to drive this camera now with this keyboard, which is great. And I can also call presets from here. So I'm going to say 1 call, and it's going to set it into the preset that it's supposed to be. Now, it looks like the iris has changed on me, which is a little bit strange. It shouldn't have, but okay, there it goes. It's kind of opening up now. But that's not what I had it set on when I came into the studio. That's certainly darker than it needs to be. So what we can do actually is we can manipulate that shot with the web UI. So here we are again. And this is the actual BirdDog P200. Let's just brighten that up a bit because it's a little bit dark. And I would prefer it to be brighter. So you can see my shot here in the bottom left. Sorry, I'm neglecting the chat for a second. It won't be long, I promise. So exposure, which is behind this safe password thing. Shutter priority, we're already all the way down. So let's go ahead and bring this, bring this back a little bit. Why are you behaving the way, why are you the way you are? It's like, oh, whoa, here it goes. So what you want to do is this camera is running, should be running in 1080p 30. Oh, and I'm all washed out. It should be running, I'm sorry, in 1080p 60 is what it should be running in, right? And a general rule, so yeah, 1080p 60 is what we've got here. So we want to double in shutter priority, we want to double it. So at least 1/100 or 1/125. And then we can manipulate the gain on the shutter to be appropriate. And so I kind of like that. That's kind of back to where I was. That purple light is really changing my, my looks here. But anyways, we do have full control of this with the keyboard. And if you manipulate a lens in and out while it's in this sort of half manual mode, it's going to let in more light, and then it's going to let in less light, and it's going to try to adjust as best it can with the iris. So that's what's going on there. That's why it was misbehaving. But it's because it's a studio camera set to manual, and it's set for this shot essentially. This is the primary shot in that studio. Okay. So that's how we add sources to a keyboard, and we can call cameras, call presets. So you can say one cam, and it will call the PF120, which is the camera number 1 that we set. And then we can say 2 cam, and it calls the Studio P200, which is this one that is in my studio that continually is fluctuating. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this to full manual because this camera does not need to change at all. And we're just going to set the settings. Let's go back to my desktop here real quick. We're just going to set the settings manually. So I'm going to do 1/25. I'm going to set the gain limit to basically the maximum. The gain limit is, that's weird. This should be definitely not 26. Anyways, so 10.7, and then we're going to manipulate this to bring up a little bit more iris to bring up the actual settings. So now I like that a whole lot better. Whoops, that's not the shot I wanted. Now I like that a whole lot better. Oh, that's fancy. I forgot I could do that. And it seems to be a little bit more responsive and brighter on the shot. So could even manipulate the gain slightly if we wanted to. Nope, that's too much. So we're going to limit that down. Go down to 1/100. Yeah, okay. That's a little more like what I was thinking it was going to be. So there we go. So now our keyboard, we can call presets, we can call the cameras. Those are the basic functions. Let me see if we have any specific requests going on here. The boss is also here. I'm watching on technology. All right, sweet. Welcome, boss. Thanks for joining the team. Let's see. Will it show camera name in the search? No, it shows the IP address of the camera in the actual search function. So when you hit search, it shows the IP. Moody lighting. What's going on, Warren? How's it going? Yeah, I did set up some lighting. What's funny is I had blue and green for a long time, right? And there's a blue light right there. There's a green light right there. And then and I got another set of lights, and I added. Oh, this morning I Googled what are common calming colors, Because when you have to come to support, right? Sorry, guys. When you have to come to support, you generally have a problem. And so what's the most relaxing colors out on the color wheel that we could use? Well, blue, green, and purple. So I was like, well, let's add a little purple light then and see how that goes. So cool stuff. So yeah, moody lighting. There you go. Hey, you spoke with me. I let him know about the issue. We'll be getting taking care of that outside the show. The issue was, John, I talked to support this morning, and they mentioned that you might be able to test using PTC presets and vMix, specifically with the 120 and Sony Visca over IP. Yeah, that's the only protocol that vMix talks. They don't talk NDI for metadata control, so you're limited to Sony Visca IP. So yeah, I will work with Senseless, and we'll see what we can come up with there. So no worries, we got you. So the presets are stored per camera, not per keyboard, right? Correct. So they are stored on the memory of the camera's baseboard. So when I recall a preset or I set a preset, you can do that here on the keyboard too, which I'll show you. It sends the file, basically, it's not really a file, but it sends the string to the camera. The camera stores that information. So when you call a preset then on the keyboard or in Studio Monitor, those, or in TriCaster, those presets are recalled on board the camera. The exception to this is vMix. vMix stores their presets in vMix and calls those coordinates according to vMix, because vMix will allow you to do a few extra little tricks. It'll also allow you to save like a thumbnail of what the shot looks like. And so you can like click on it and recall that shot pretty quick. And that's a nice little feature. But those presets are saved in vMix. And so if you're saving presets in vMix and on the keyboard, you're saving two sets of presets. And that gets quite confusing. Can we save color presets? Yes, you can. You can save the color presets by turning on preset memory on the camera. So we would go to the OSD. Curious. Can I do that here? Let's see. So we would go to the OSD. OSD. Is this thing? So we go to the OSD on the camera, and you would go, whoops a daisy, and we would go to the system menu. All right. And then here it says preset memory. And so we're going to change preset memory from off to on, and then we are going to resave all of our presets. And it's going to remember all of the exposure. It's going to remember the white balance. It's going to remember the color settings, the sharpness, all of that stuff. So be careful if you do that. What on earth? Now this camera's all blown out. Be careful if you do that, because it can definitely, I know why. It can definitely screw with things if you do that. Why did you change? I must have hit like a click wheel or something, because the exposure got changed. The exposure got changed. What is going on here with this camera? It must not like, let's just call preset 1. Now I have preset memory set off. And so that is why it is not recalling any of the coloration. I could, but what on earth? Let's tone that down just a little bit. Okay, here we go. I'm still like, don't have a lot of like color to my face, but anyways, this is what you get if you mess with your primary camera while you're on the show. Anyways, so that's what is going on there. The settings are saved on board the camera, and if you turn on preset memory and then you save your presets, it will remember each of the coloration settings that you set on the camera. Now, in a controlled studio like this, I prefer to run full manual. That's the point. And so the settings don't change, and you manipulate every single shot that you have. But in a run and gun situation, or a church, or a place that is changing lighting or whatever, you're going to want to implement some of that. So there's a frame drop every 13 seconds. It's been going on for a while. Well, that's strange. I'm not detecting it here, and it's not showing up in vMix. So that might be the encode going up to Studio Monitor. Oh, I know what I did. I touched this stupid thing on the keyboard. That's what I did. So interesting. Why? Why are you the way that you are? There we go. Okay, cool. To quote The Office. Shouldn't that make it brighter? All right, here we go. Back to full manual because I don't trust. I just don't trust. Full manual means that these settings will not change regardless of what happens to them in the future, regardless of what I do with the keyboard. So let's set that up accordingly. I can turn down the gain limit on this because I don't need that high. Do you guys want to see what I'm doing here? Let's cut over to that. Okay, so these are my full manual settings, and I have a confidence monitor, which looks kind of like what I want. So close to that. Curious about that drop frame comment. I believe you. I just don't see it. It's not reporting it here. So same with Wirecast as Judson does. So Wirecast saves on board or saves on the camera. What does it do? Oh yeah, I got hired back to my old job when I got laid off in the middle of the pandemic, but I still work for the company I just left, but I'm still a part of them. Okay. I'm still part-time for them. Gotcha. In the OSD, you accidentally clicked full auto. Oh my gosh. That's what I get, folks. That's what I get for trying to be too slick. And I turned on the OSD on multiple cameras. I'm looking at them in vMix. So, okay. Oh, crap. Funny story. Oh, there we go. It was turning it on multiple cameras and like on and off and whatever. So, whoops-a-daisy. Whoops-a-daisy. All right. Well, it saves it on board. Okay, good. So that's good to know. Wirecast saves on board, which is super helpful because it allows you to do a whole lot. You know, you can manipulate the camera multiple ways then. So that's good. Let's slice back over here. Okay, so this is all great. What was the other thing I was going to cover here with one of the things that you should know is that keyboard allows you to with the latest version of keyboard, let me get this pulled up here. I'm going to remove this source, close this source, and now add a new input. Who knows what this is going to do? You can, the keyboard now outputs the source that you are using, that you're manipulating. So this keyboard should be on this group. Give it a second here to come up. So the keyboard should be outputting an NDI source, and it's a part of the group, so it should be doing that. Let me see if I can pull it up here. That's not it. Let me think about how to do this. So just in brief, I mean, we've demoed this before, but the keyboard outputs what's called a keyboard router. And when you select a source on your keyboard, then it allows you to see that as an NDI source. And so say we want we want to have this on a confidence monitor, or we want to just call the cameras based on the keyboards that we're pulling. We can set up our NDI output, like bring it into vMix as the keyboard router. And then as we call cameras, it will switch inside of Studio Monitor. And so it'll show you that camera. So, okay, we're going to call camera 2 next. And when we call camera 2, then it switches automatically inside of Studio Monitor and so on and so forth. So the keyboard router now has basically a retransmitter inside of it, the keyboard, a retransmitter inside it, and it will show the NDI source that you have selected as your camera. So great thing for camera operators. Oh man, that freezing is coming out of my, it's definitely coming out of my mouth now. So the great thing for camera operators is if you want to set up the next shot, you can have a screen open with Studio Monitor. You call the camera, have the keyboard router available, steer it, get it into position, and then the guy that's running the show can then call that camera when it's ready to be called. And so a two-man operation becomes very useful and very efficient because you can have one guy manipulating the cameras with a keyboard, get it all set up, get the shot perfect, get the coloration right, and then leave that shot and go to another camera and start working on that shot. And then when it's time for the first shot, the guy that's running the actual production can call that camera. And you can do that now basically for free. It was a free update with this keyboard, and Studio Monitor is free. And so if you have a computer and Studio Monitor, you can do it. Okay, it's 11:45. We need to crack these open. The freezing is coming out of my mouth, so who knows? I don't know what these are going to be like. I delivered some to the guys out in the lobby, so we'll see if they're actually going to go down and do this. I am going to pick my favorite color because why not? But these things look like jawbreakers, which isn't the best thing. Don't tell my dentist that I'm participating in this activity right now, because he would probably have a hernia. But they look like jawbreakers. Who knows what they're going to taste like or act like? But I will now continue to answer your keyword NDI questions while consuming a purple smog ball. So here we go. They taste like gobstoppers. They start off tasting like gobstoppers, Brayton says. Okay, good to know. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. The sour comes once you crack the center open. Oh, okay. Well, cool. Ready for that? So will Silicone 2 update be update for the BirdDog PTC? When will it be out? Okay, that's a loaded question. It will be out once all of the NDI 5 stuff is done. Then that's the next project they're going to work on. So there's no definite launch date for Silicone 2. We're hoping to be further along than we are, but that's the nature of inventing things. And so Silicone 2, I don't know when it will officially be out, but the NDI 5 updates are finishing up. I was told last night that they're basically getting down to the final items with those, and then those will be out of beta and officially done. So that's good stuff. But yeah, I'm not too sure when that will be. Frink thinks they're weak. All right. Well, should I try and bite into this thing? I don't know. Is it going to break my teeth? Really hesitant because I just dropped like a lot of money on there. I had the work done over here, and so I'm favoring this side of my mouth right now. But anyways, how good is the BirdDog controller talking to other brands of PTCs? You need to send help@bird-dog.tv an email and ask specify which cameras, because here's what we learned. We launched the keyboard with NDI, Sony Visca IP, RS232, and RS422. And then we found out that everybody does not use like the same programming. When they say, oh, we use Sony Visca IP, they don't use necessarily Sony Visca IP. And a great case for this is Sony. Sony does not use Sony Visca IP, at least the one that they publish. They use a hybrid of one, which is different than the initial commands, which is really annoying. So I wish they would just update the original one. But anyways, so you need to specify what cameras and if we've tested them. I know for sure we've tested PTZ Optics cameras. We've tested New Tech cameras. We've tested all the BirdDog line cameras. And then you'll have to ask our help desk guys if they know of any others. I know that those ones have been specifically tested. There is some like RS232 cameras and 422s. That's a standardized protocol, but it's quite old. And so if you have a 232 camera that talks over copper and you're willing to make a crossover cable to make that happen, I've heard several successes with those, but it's hard to say because everybody programs it differently. And as Warren states, Sony don't listen to nobody. It's true. All right. I missed Webb's question. I remember seeing it, but I definitely didn't get to it. So I'm really sorry about that, Webb. Good morning. I have a client who's a meteorologist and gets invited to NASA launch events. He's asked something crazy. Capture via live streaming a NASA launch. Seems to me that this is a job for a PTZ and then have the video and control over NDI. What's the question, though? He wants to he wants to live stream a NASA launch from his location. Totally can be done. Right off the bat, you could use a PTZ camera and a solo U pack or some sort of internet connection, or get it to cloud and get it back to production, or you could use, I hate to say it, but there's a use case if you can get one of those like Verizon Jetpacks. I know those things get like 30 up and down. So you have a computer with cloud, Verizon Jetpack that's plugged in via USB. That gives you your internet. And then you could get off of the Jetpack at, 6 or 5 megabits per second. That would probably be worth it. Yeah, I mean, a PTZ, you can quickly expand a PTZ fleet too. So you can have several different shots set up for the launch and different stages of the launch. And so that would be an easy to do thing, I think. I mean, it wouldn't be very complicated at all. Yeah, video and control over NDI. I mean, that's the simplest way to do it, honestly, anymore. I mean, I know that there are guys that are NDI's too slow, and it's like, really? I mean, we're 2 frames. It's pretty incredible for being 2 frames compared to just straight SDI, right? Like the trained eye, yes, might notice, but the average churchgoer will not. So for iMag and stuff, probably be pretty good. Anyways, for a NASA launch, yeah, that would be great. And we would be very interested in hearing more about that project for sure. Yeah, less sour and the casing isn't as good. Oh, that's sad. Knowing you, don't bite into it until it's softer. Yeah, okay, thanks. I will definitely wait. It is substantially smaller. This thing is dissolving. So far, so good. The flavor is a little weak. I would agree that the flavor so far is weak. Those work with Visca can work, I suppose. So we do speak Visca 232 and 422, and then Sony Visca IP. Those are the protocols that the keyboard uses. They're very specific, though. So if your camera says, we speak Visca IP, you have to dig a little bit deeper and say which Visca IP, because there's a Panasonic Visca IP, there's straight up Visca IP, there's Sony Visca IP, and there's like 3 others. So find out. We do Sony Visca IP, which is like 80% of the Visca IP out there. And that will give you PTZ control. All of the buttons and everything may not be mapped. So you'll get control of the camera by joining it with Visca IP, but perhaps not all of the reds and blues and iris control and everything too. I have a customer that's looking, what's going on, Phil? I have a customer that's looking at doing this with an A300 and a P4K soon. That's pretty cool. Answer, yes. We will all go to NASA for that. Yeah. A300 P4K. Oh, yeah, that... oh, wait, sorry. Problem is the camera and related equipment needs to be left unmanned. Yeah, that is a problem. Oh, I just got to the sour part. Oh, I was really hopeful, but that was nothing. That was nothing. Here we go again. So that means leaving near the launch pad, no people allowed. Beside the PTZ camera and an internet connection, what else is needed? A computer. At this stage, before Silicon 2 comes out, you're going to need an endpoint. So a computer, a Windows machine, or a Linux machine that can enable your cloud connection. That's going to give you PTZ control of that camera. And then you can leave it unmanned. As long as there's nobody else around, it's not going to get stolen. Then absolutely. You can leave it there, leave the computer, make sure the computer is powered, everything's powered, like a switch. You're going to need to power the camera. And then, that's, you'd probably be good. And then if you have a decent switch, you could expand that out to do multi-streams. So the sky's the limits. Yeah, good times. Time code over NDI, your views. Well, the NDI protocol generates its own time code. It's not like Genlock. Okay, so people are used to Genlock. It's not like Genlock. The cameras themselves generate their own time codes, and the benefit for that is the time codes get embedded with the information packets, and then they get read at the decoder side, and so that the decoder knows there are no drop frames or that all the packets are arriving, that sort of thing. So there's checks and balances with that. But the actual NDI time code is embedded inside the actual NDI metadata that goes out with the actual video. So that's really the only, when we talk about time code over NDI, that's pretty much all that we can say about that. Wait, what? Silicone 2 has no endpoint, doesn't need endpoint? Please elaborate. So Silicone 2, the idea was to allow the cameras to do SRT natively, which means that if you already have it converted to SRT, then in theory, we should be able to join them directly to the cloud matrix and not need a computer. But that is to be seen and tested and proven. You'll still need an endpoint license for the device, but there's that. So that's pretty exciting. It was like one of the number one requested features when cloud came out is, okay, I bought a camera. How do I get it on the matrix? It's like, well, you need a computer and you need an endpoint license and you need all this stuff. Well, the idea soon is that once Silicone 2 comes out, it will be able to convert the video to SRT instead of NDI. And if you get it to SRT, well, then it's already ready for the internet. So then we can figure out a way to link it to your cloud account directly and not need that. So no promises, but that's the hope. That's the dream. Hey, on the keyboard, I need to make the setup button jump back to home so you don't have to hit exit 5 times. You're preaching to the choir, man. Yes. However, it's a very linear way of programming. And so you're stepping back into out of submenus. And so that is the way that it's programmed. I will mention that to the engineers that is a desire. But yeah, I get that. I totally get that. So it's PTZ camera plus a computer, Windows only, no Mac, correct, or Linux, and internet connection to cloud. Cloud 2.0. Cloud Connect is like something else happening. It's not the same thing. It's a group of features and functions. So PTZ camera and computer into a switch, and then the internet can be into that switch as well. You need to have a proper switch, though, to do the packet handling. I wouldn't recommend going Ethernet out of camera into the computer. It can be done. I just don't recommend it. I recommend a nice layer 2 switch that's going to be able to handle things. And if you're going to run static, I recommend that Windows machine be running Discovery Server, and you utilize that to ensure that the packets are all going to arrive correctly and everybody knows who's on your static network. If you have a Netgear 4250, for example, like a little desktop 8-porter that they just came out with in April, if you're able to get one of those, then everything is inside that little switch and you don't need to run static. You can run DHCP, super simple setup, really easy to use. So there's that idea. But you probably should go into a switch. The camera should be powered over PoE, and the internet can go into that switch as well. Good old crossover cables. Well, the modern day computers will actually do the crossover for you. So that's not actually required, but yes, good old crossover cables. What's going on, Michael? Welcome, welcome. Appreciate you stopping by. I've been eating smog balls, crunchy candy with a sour, chewy center. Disappointing, to say the least. I would give them to my kids who are 4 and 8, and they'd be able to handle this level of sour, for sure. Is there any production tools that can send commands to PTZ cameras using the BirdDog REST API? Yes. First and foremost, the good old-fashioned X keys. You can program API commands directly into the X key software, loaded on to the hardware of that device, and then take that device wherever you want to go, and it should save those settings on board the memory, and you should be able to use that to run your production stuff. So if I may, I'm going to cut over here now to my X keys setup. So I've had this for a very long time. I had this for quite a while, long before I was in BirdDog game. And it allows me to do a whole bunch of stuff, but these are just all API commands basically that I've used out of vMix. I use vMix to program this, and it's just using MIDI commands in this instance. But you can use the X-Key software and program API commands, which is super helpful. Warren makes a great point here that you can use Companion, Crestron, QSys. That is very true. Companion will allow you to do API commands on a Stream Deck, which I also happen to have one of those here. So you can use Companion to set up API commands and call them that way as well. Also relatively inexpensive. Here's an idea. Let's make these little tiny marbles and roll them around on flat surfaces. That's helpful. That yellow one was a little sour. Wasn't very sour. Anyways, but I use my little X keys here now to command my entire vMix output, and I can set up the preview window with any of my sources, and then I can cut over to that, or I can just punch over. Let's go back to that shot real quick. What shot is that? Yeah, it's 4. So I can punch over to that shot directly by just clicking the program button, and then it sends it over directly that way. So that's kind of cool. Super easy. And then I have a playlist that cycles through my cameras, which I'm not really using today, but I can turn that on and off. And I have a cut. This is also a fade button. So if I wanted to fade from preset to preset, maybe make it a little less abrupt than the cut. But I find the cut for the pace of the show it kind of works. So anyways, I'm super, super geeked about that. But yeah, good times, great oldies. I would recommend using a device like this. Now, these are relatively inexpensive. This one is just above $100. It's like 120 or something like that. But so is a Stream Deck. The Stream Deck has nice little LCD screens behind. You can set pictures. You can do whatever. But sometimes you just want something basic, And this X Keys has more buttons than the Stream Deck of comparable price. This Stream Deck is like what? Help me out, guys. Is like 150 or something like that. And this is like 120. So, and these X Keys come in variable sizes as well, and different form factors and whatever. There's one that Tom Sinclair has. It's like an 80 button like monster. It's huge. But yeah, for what I'm using, as you can see, I'm not even using most of the third row in this case. So good times. Man, I haven't seen an X Keys in forever. Well, that's why you come to the show. Yeah, X Keys is well loved in the production realm, and now I have a very good use for it. vMix. Hey, can we have a few sessions with Jake where BirdDog Cloud will be picked from basic to advanced gradually? Yes, actually, that is coming in a more formal sense. We're working on an education module that people will be able to take and learn more about specific products and NDI networking and setup to make that available in a more professional capacity. So stay tuned. More of that is coming. I'm happy to have Jake back on the show. We talk for 2 hours and it just goes by really fast. So we can definitely do more BirdDog Basic. Maybe we should do like BirdDog Cloud Basics and then BirdDog Cloud Advanced, and we'll have 2 shows and we'll have him back. So, all right. Have a great night, Warren. I really appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for hanging out with us. I can hardly believe my ears. John not slandering vMix. Hey, I would hardly say that the things that I said about vMix were slanderous. Wasn't slander. It was just, I said vMix has its audience, and now I agree. It has its place, in particular, helping me run this show. I have another question. Say we are able to figure out live streaming for the launch. How well can the motors on the BirdDog PTZ handle an extreme vibration that may come from the launch? In other words, will the image even be usable? Well, there is a stabilization module in there, but it is not a stabilizer in terms of how we understand stabilizers. So you are likely going to want to stabilize it or find a camera that has a stabilizer for like significant vibration. The stabilizer on the P200 or P400, those cameras generally can handle like being mounted on a wall and an HVAC system turns on, or a door shuts and it shakes the wall a little bit. But for an extreme launch, if you're going to be near the pad and it's going to like shake the earth, I don't know about that, man. I would have a hard time thinking that you would get away with a inexpensive stabilizer that comes on the P200. You're probably looking at something a little more professional in that regard. BirdDog Cloud seems to be the best fit for where we have a studio set up for clients, which can be operated remotely with minimal manpower at the location. That's like one of the catalysts behind the purpose of BirdDog Cloud. Hey, and thanks for everybody who's given the thumbs up on Facebook. If you haven't done so already, please feel free to go over to birddogjohn.tv and hit the subscribe button there. We're trying to gain some traction on YouTube so that we can do a few things like have a name on YouTube, but we would love to kind of generate some traction over there. So if you haven't done so already, hit me up over on YouTube at birddogjohn.tv. That would be super duper helpful. Okay, so yes, this was one of the primary catalysts in the cloud/pandemic era. So everybody worked from home. All these news anchors were hanging out at home. They needed a way to get their video and audio back to the studio for remote production. And the studios were actually being hosted inside people's homes. So the producer would just set up a studio in his house because he was locked down as well. And he would just bring in the streams via cloud into his house and then produce the show from there and send it up RTMP to their server. So that was kind of the idea. And we have refined it since then. Pandemic's kind of, I won't say come to an end, but the heat has definitely been turned way down. And so we have refined that process substantially in how cloud works. And I hope you saw some of that with BirdDog Jake on the Cloud 3.0 expansion discussions that we had a week ago. GoWeb has suggested that perhaps we do that again, or maybe a little more like BirdDog Cloud Basics and then BirdDog Cloud Advanced. I'd be happy to do that. We could do that in a month or so, have him back on and really kind of go over with a fine-tooth comb some of those features. But what you're saying, GoWeb, is pretty much one of the highest use case scenarios that people use cloud for is having a remote studio where somebody can sit down, put in an earpiece, clip on a microphone, and sit in front of a camera. And you can adjust the camera from your studio, set the coloration, do everything you need to do, bring that feed over via NDI back, over the cloud, back to your production studio, and even have a two-way conversation. Like cloud is fast enough where you can just talk. And there's no more waiting for the signal to get there. If you ask your guest talent a question, it should be pretty much immediate, very, very little downtime. So, yeah, it's great. And Shirley maybe it's network video freeze sometime today. I don't know that one. Hey, would a lens with built-in image stabilization be reactive to being in a PTZ mount? I think so. I mean, I think if you could reduce the shaking of the camera down to like a minimum, then the image stabilization could take over and get the rest of it. The thing with image stabilization is it adds a frame of latency and it crops the image a little bit, because that's the stabilizing piece, is that it's going to try and keep the image that it has in the center and allow the outsides to kind of adjust accordingly. So you lose a little bit of, you add one frame and you lose a little bit of the picture. So there is a trade-off with using image stabilization on a PTZ. But the sky's the limits in terms of what you want to pay for and how much you want to invest in something like that, because stabilizers can be, You can buy cheap ones and you can buy expensive ones. It's not a cheap one in the P200. It's actually quite a good stabilizer, but it's really meant for being mounted on a wall and a door shuts or an HVAC system or something like that. It can't take constant shaking. And we've seen it where there were like heavy doors, like fire doors mounted, and the camera was mounted above it on like a drywall. And when the door would shut, it would shake it so hard that even the stabilization couldn't compensate for that. And that's just literally the wall is moving that much that it can't keep up. So I've seen it all in terms of good use cases for stabilization. Churches with wooden doors that have, those slow close things on them. But I've noticed the like fire doors with the actual panic bars and that sort of thing, those heavier doors that like click shut, those can cause a real issue. So, yeah, take that for what it's worth. Well, my face is done being frozen. I mean, it's not completely done, but this coffee is calling my name. So we're going to have a little sip of coffee. And hopefully it won't like run out my mouth. These have all been really great questions, guys. And I'm really thankful that you guys have hung out with me here today. I'm happy to answer anything else. If you got questions, throw them in the chat. I'll hang out for a couple more minutes, and then we'll probably wrap it up and call it a day. Now, I should announce that I am planning on joining Tom Sinclair on his show on the 12th of this month. And so not this week, but next, we will be, this BirdDog show will be a guest over on Tom's show, and we'll be covering whatever Tom's people want to talk about. So first of all, go to birddogjohn.tv, which is there at the bottom of the screen. Subscribe to my channel there. That would help me out greatly. But then look up Eastern Shore Broadcasting or Google Streaming Idiots, and Tom Sinclair's show will come up. He's on Wednesday afternoons. And so he's got a great show and a good group of people over there that hang out with him. And he talks about everything. He talks about vMix. He talks about BirdDog cameras. He has a few PTC optics cameras. He's got a lot of microphones. He talks audio. He talks all sorts of things. And so he even does topical shows. I watched one a couple weeks ago about how to have a good talk show, like what to do and what not to do if you're planning on having a podcast or a talk show and you want to do streaming stuff. Here are some tips, and he's been in the industry a long time. He's got lots of great experience and good things to share. So he would be appreciative if you go over there and subscribe to his channel. He's a great guy. We've had him on here a couple of times, and yeah, he's got lots of good information to share with you. So check him out, Eastern Shore Broadcasting on YouTube. Hey, thanks for the elaborate demo of the controller. Yeah, I don't know if that's sarcastic because I didn't really do a whole lot with the controller, but I'm glad that you found something useful. If you have specific questions about it, a lot of it is kind of self-explanatory about using the actual unit itself. So I can throw it back over here and just do a little brief. Let's cut back to my shot here. Like we have a Zoom rocker, which is pretty standard. It's not as elegant as the joystick. The joystick, if you turn it, gives you real tactile control over being able to control the camera left, right, up, down, but also zoom in and out. I should note this button is not programmed for anything yet. It's actually in previous firmwares, I haven't tested on the current firmware, but it puts the camera in like a demo mode. And so it just kind of like does a little spin around. So yeah, pressing that doesn't really do anything, but the function buttons now have become very useful because you can program these over an API. You can program API commands. And so not only can they, reset, they can call presets and they can do a few things like that. They can also be set to call API commands like any API command. And so if you have a command that dims the lights in the room, you could program that in, F6. We could program that and it would dim the lights in the room so that you could start your presentation or whatever you want to do there. So it's kind of a cool idea that now these are 6 function buttons, but they're also you can program API commands, and that's really helpful. So the function buttons are great. That gives you the versatility. You can program like 100 presets on this keyboard per camera. So you would need a big giant laundry list, like a Excel sheet to figure out exactly what every single shot is. But that can be done by simply saying 1 and then holding down the preset button. And then it will say define preset. And that's it. That's all you have to do. And then you say 2 and you hold down the preset button. It will say define preset 2. And then when you call presets, you say 1 call or 2 call. That's how you call a preset. Really, really simple stuff. Let me just make sure I've covered all the real critical things here. This is a pan tilt speed. So if you want to change the actual speed of how quickly the camera pans and tilts, you can turn that up, turn it up or down. There's a little LED screen that lights up there next to it. And same thing here, zoom speed. If you want to slow down, if I go full over on this joystick and I want to slow down the zoom speed, I can do that here. So that's great. Now, you're also going to notice that it says LR direction and UD direction. This is if you want to invert your joystick. And what you do is you go to the home menu, the like home screen, the basic menu, and you just hold this down for like, I think it's like 3 or 5 seconds or something like that. And what that will do is on the screen, then you will see it. It'll say U/D and L/R, and they'll say on. They should by default say off. But if you're used to flying airplanes, or maybe you have a, flight simulator or something like that, and you're used to a yoke, those controls are inverted, right? You pull back and you go up, and you push in and you go down. And so if you pull back, this would go down in default. And so instead, you don't want to go down, you want it to go up because you're used to pulling back on a yoke or something like that. So you want your controls inverted. You'd hold down this and wait for the screen to change, and it would say LR on. And that's inversion. You've inverted the joystick. So there's that. I don't know if everybody knew that, but there you go. Hey, John, as a follow-up, it's a vMix script that's sending the API calls. It's just being triggered by the X-Keys controller. So in my instance, I'm using it as a MIDI controller. So I'm calling MIDI commands. And you're able to open the shortcuts menu in vMix, and then you say add, and you go to MIDI and you say find, and you press the button that you want to program, and it finds what button that is, and then you set the command on. There's like a big list, a laundry list of commands there. In X-Keys, you can set it as an API command to call an API string. You just have to have that. You have to test the string like in Google or whatever, test it, make sure it works, and then you can program it to that button, and it will always do that function. So yeah, there you go. We are going to spend a lot of time at the BirdDog booth with CDM Technologies at Broadcast India 2022, Mumbai, 13th through 15th of this month. Awesome. That would be fantastic. If BirdDog Phil is around, should see who and what is going to be shown at that show, because he would be the guy that would probably know. He's kind of in charge of that zone generally. Can we reduce the brightness of the buttons if they're too bright? I think you can. And before I let you go, I will fire up the keyboard and verify that that is in the keyboard settings. So give me a quick little shout out here. I see. Thanks. You're very welcome. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Thanks for the X-Keys questions. I love it. And here we're going to try a green smog ball while I wait for the keyboard to turn on. Okay, so we're almost there now. Keyboard initializing. Let's have a quick look-see and see what we can find out. I'm going to pull up the keyboard dashboard as well, just to have that available. It's not there yet. Okay, there. Dashboard's responding, which means that the keyboard's almost done. I'll log into the dashboard while I'm at it. And I'm going to put this here. Okay, so we got to calibrate again, right? Because I just turned it on. Up, down, left, right. Calibrated. All right, cool. Now let's go into setup. Setup. And my password. Don't tell anyone my password. Keyboard settings. Button light. Level 2. Level 1. Off. So the answer is yes. Level 2, level 1, and off. Cool. Me personally, I like it nice and bright. So I'm going to do that. But yes, if you're in a dark room, obviously you may not want these super bright. Now, to be fair, this camera makes it look like they're brighter than they are. But they're nice. At level 2, they're nice. 2 is like you can tell it's on, and 1 is obviously off. But yes, to answer your question, Go Web, you definitely can. And here's the web UI. Let's see. It shows that the NDI is connected. I just want to pull up Studio Monitor real quick. I'm not 100% sure why the router is not working on this. I'd love to find out why. So over in system, let's just make sure it's in here already. So here's that API stuff. Look, you can change these to function mode API, and then we can program API commands right here. So function button 1, and then you put in your string, and right now it's set to preset 1, but put in your string and off you go. Or you can change it back to function, and then that actually happens on the keyboard. So let's jump back to that real quick, and I'll show you that. Password, if you just want to set the function buttons, you go down here to assign key, F1. We're going to click LR, and here it says, go home. So we can change this to whatever we want. So power off, the pan tilt reset. You can mute the actual picture, turn the picture off. Picture freeze if you want. Flip, LR reverse button. Camera 1 recall. So instead of doing 1 cam, 2 cam, 3 cam to call cameras, you can just hit F1 and it will call camera 1, which is super nice. But we can also select various cameras. I think, they give you up to 7 of the first immediate 7. And then there is a way to set the preset on here as well. So where is it here? That may be actually now listed as an API command. That's probably what it is. So it's listed as an API command. So anyways, good stuff. So what I mean by that is this over on this screen. We're going to go up to API settings. And then this is recall preset 1 is what this command is. So F1 is now set as that. We want to be sure that we change our function mode to API. And then if we would hit apply, and now F1 would be recall preset 1 on the camera that's selected. So then you would go out here, exit. I've got the PF120 here listed. And so if I hit F1, it would call preset 1 on the camera. So fun times, everybody. Fun times. Sanaya is asking if she can play video games with this controller. Unfortunately not. Unless your dad figures out how to program the API commands for the game into these function buttons. That is the only way that could be done. Alrighty. Well, it is time to wrap it up here, folks. There is a full schedule this afternoon. And people have been messaging me, so I need to probably get on with that. But there's a full schedule this afternoon. Feel free to reach out to us, of course, if you are at all needing help in the next couple of days between now and Thursday at help@birddog.tv. My guys at the help desk try to be as super helpful. It's even nicer when you say, hey, I'm from the Twitch show, or I'm from John's stream show, and I just had a quick question. Make a little connection there. That would be great. And hit us up there. We will be back, however, on Thursday at 11 o'clock to do another session, hang out again together. So feel free to synchronize your watches for 11 o'clock on Thursday Eastern time here in the U.S. And we'll be back online then, as long as everything goes as planned. I feel my tooth settling down. It's quite sore now because the freezing's gone, but I'll hopefully be right as rain on Thursday and be able to take more of your questions. Stay tuned. There's lots more stuff to talk about around here, and so we will have more to go over, and fun things are coming from BirdDog. So definitely want to hang around and find out more about that. Join us on Thursday. It'll be a good time, and hopefully, until then, you take care of yourselves, look after each other, and we'll be back with another round on Thursday at 11. Take care, guys. Bye.
Kids, you tried your best, and you failed miserably. The lesson is, never try.